Yo, listen, to be on the inaugural, I hope I got that right, guys. The inaugural Cowboys, John laughing at me. The inaugural Cowboys Collective is such a blessing. I'm Fuster King. We're here with John Machota, the great John Machota from The Athletic. Clint, my buddy Clint, Attack on Cowboys. Clint, how you doing?
I
Law
am
Nation,
perfect,
the
brother.
Godfather, Law Nation Sports. This is
Appreciate it.
us four. We are the Cowboys Collective. How you guys doing, man?
Hey, man, I'm ready to rip some people some new ones, man. Let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. Let's get
And,
into it.
and,
Say that top of my eye.
Pause if necessary.
No, ain't no
Come on with
pause.
it.
Keep going, Lord. Y'all
Come on.
pause it here.
I
Ain't
said
no
if
pause.
necessary. If
Keep on going.
necessary. If
Keep on going.
necessary, we gonna have the pause. What's
and,
good, man? What's good with you?
and so this is going to be a fun one because it's the
Uh
first
huh.
one. So we'll get in the rhythm, we'll get in the flow. I'm going to kind of be quarterbacking, but listen, what we'll do is give our thoughts. I don't know if this will be a bunch of shouting, screaming, debating, back and forth. I vision this show is Cowboys Collective. We all have our perspective channels and our perspective, our what we do, right? But in this
Right.
in this
Right.
space, I kind of just want to give our thoughts and like how we would attack things and how we wouldn't attack things and what the Cowboys should do and shouldn't do. And if debate happens, it happens. But I don't want to.
Any
Everything
debate
is
is
so.
all wrong. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
well, hey, attack. If we get into it, it's okay. I'm not mad at it, but you know, I think so many shows now. Let's just argue all day, and I don't know if we'll beat that, but who knows? Now, I will say this: we do have the great John Machota, and he is, on the beat every day. And John, you were at the owners' meeting. How was that today? Was there any nuggets that came out of the owners' meeting? What can you tell us?
So this is the first time when Jerry wasn't there to talk. So
Okay.
this kind of surprises me. So they do it out in Las Colinas, and it was the Four Seasons. They changed it now. It's another. I mean, it's a super nice hotel. So all the, if not every owner's there, there's a representative from every team. And so generally speaking, I go out there because Jerry almost always talks at the end of these. And so, but we did get Stephen Jones for a little bit. I'd say the biggest things that came out of it, number one is for anybody that is hoping that they're going to spend a little bit more, be a little more aggressive in the free agency this upcoming offseason. Yeah, that's not happening.
It's too early for
Wow.
him.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
this, John.
Yeah.
It's too early for this,
John,
John.
no, hold on, whoa, John, no. Now I said we weren't gonna argue, but I'm not gonna let you skate past that. John, lean into why. What's going on there? You're kidding me. This is
Yeah.
breaking news. What?
So it's because of the fact of having dead money from previous contracts that they
Mm.
still have on the books. So the exact quote from Stephen about this was, I think we knew we were going to have a challenge this year and next year. It's going to be really, really tight because we still have some money left over from some guys who aren't here today. And you're going to have some other guys that won't be here in the future that you still have their cap count. And so because of that, this is going to be a conservative offseason. I'm telling you, like,
Wow.
yeah, I know fans don't want to hear that because they see a team that's been disappointing this year, and you want to go in the offseason and be like, all right, there's going to be some major changes. But I maintain that there weren't going to be major changes when they gave the contracts to Dak and CD. So, because I'm of the belief that a Jerry Jones in his late 40s, early 50s, so this is early 90s when he first bought the team, I don't think he does Dak and CD's contract. I think the all-in that he wanted to be was they were going to be all in on the season. When the season was over, evaluate everything. Does that mean then I'm going to give Dak a new contract? Does that mean then I'm going to give Mike McCarthy a new contract? But he changed that plan, when he gave that contract to CD, gave the contract to Dak. Those are major dollars locked up there. And I just think as you get older, and the reason I point out Jerry being younger, I don't think he would have
Right.
done that. As you get older, you want to do things that are more comfortable. And that also brings you to the fact of today, the big news, Bill Belichick taking the job to be the next head coach at the University of North
Huge
Carolina.
news.
Right.
That's a person that a lot of people would consider, okay, the Cowboys will have interest in him in the offseason. And clearly that they didn't. And to be honest with you, Bill Belichick's taking the North Carolina gig. That tells me he didn't have any interest from any NFL team because you're not taking that over an NFL job. And
Right.
so that's why I say again, older Jerry, very conservative in the moves that he makes and things that he does. That's why you cannot completely rule out them sticking with Mike McCarthy beyond this season.
Yeah, that dude points directions for that. But John, let me ask you this. So just listening into that and being there, is most of this is Stephen Jones steering the ship versus Jerry Jones? If that's the case, because Stephen Jones always been that conservative one as well. So could that be the situation that this philosophy is all Stephen Jones now?
I wouldn't say all, because Jerry still has the final say. That's why I will never completely just dismiss listening to anything Jerry says, because he is the final decision maker on this. And so because of that, I do think Steven has more say than ever before. But but in the end, Jerry will still have that final. He'll listen. I mean, he listens to Will. He listens to. I mean, if he didn't, Johnny Manziel would have been the draft pick. I mean, that's very clear.
Right.
And so he listens to those guys, but he still is the final decision maker, and he will be as long as he's alive. And I know that that's not something that a lot of Cowboys fans love, but yeah, that's basically where things are at.
I have a question, John. I have a question. Does Jerry and company know Google is free, man? Does he know that we all have resources where we can see you can save $36 million in cap by restructuring that, $20 million in cap by restructuring CD next season, $6 million from a Diggs restructure, 14 or 9 million from cutting Terrence Steele if they were to do something like that. Get rid of your safeties, $8 million save. Micah extension opens up $15 million. Man, what? Why has no one brought this to them that, hey, man, y'all know we can see this, right? Are y'all going to explain to us why these aren't viable moves that we can make? Like, what's happening here?
No, and they're aware of that. They know that stuff is public knowledge, but they also play a game where they have to say certain things because, let's just be honest, if you're running the Dallas Cowboys right now, why would you say to anybody right now, oh, no, we're going to be spending big in the offseason?
That's
you
fair.
Put that out there. That's a dumb thing to do. That's bad business. That's a bad thing to do.
But okay, is that bad business, or is it more so bad business to alienate your target demographic, to alienate your consumer? Let's take the football out of it, right? Take the football. This is a business. Every NFL organization is a business. At the end of the day, they're counting revenue, right? You don't alienate your consumer, so you want to have something that excites your consumer about your product. Bringing back Mike McCarthy doesn't excite the consumer. Having Mike McCarthy and these guys making excuses for mediocrity doesn't excite the consumer. Having these guys come out and lie to us about the cap doesn't excite. So there is a reason to say, hey guys, we're going to be trying to be more active. We're going to at least put our foot in the ring this time. We're going to get in the ring with these guys this time. That makes the consumer more excited. Right now, there's a massive sense of apathy just coming over the entire Cowboys fan base. So
put a pin in that, Clint, because we'll get to that. Because I actually read your article about Mike McCarthy. But was there anything else outside of free agency talk that you think that came out of the owners meeting, John?
Well, the one other thing I will say is just the difference in the way that Steven handles questions compared to Jerry. It was just so on display today because of the fact that Steven was asked multiple questions about Mike McCarthy's job, and Steven was just we're worried about this week. We're focused on this team right now, where he can say that over and over again. He fielded multiple questions about that. Jerry can't do that. Jerry has to give you more, that's in his DNA. And so today was a good example of, because people ask me all the time, like, how do you think the team will be different when Steven's running it in that? And you won't hear, like, Steven will do radio interviews, he'll talk, but he's not going to say the stuff like I'll give you a good example, like on what we were just talking about on the offseason and the salary cap and things like that. Steven's not going to keep needling the fans and pissing them off by going back to this all-in thing when you're clearly not going all in and thinking it's funny, because he's not going to want to do that stuff. Where to Jerry, that's almost like sport, like he's having fun with that, and it was a bad move to do that. But Jerry's on a level where he has raised the value of not only the Cowboys but the NFL on such a level that you can tell he does things that he feels fearless, like that there's nothing that can touch him. Where I don't get the sense that Steven, would operate that same way. And you saw that today because there were multiple chances that he could have just given you a little something that might have made you think like, oh, this is kind of showing his hand. And there was none of that at all. And I think that's how he'll be when he's running the team too. And I also think that with Steven, it's a far greater chance that if they were in the situation they are right now and he had owned the team for a little bit and been the guy in charge, that I can see Stephen Jones hiring a GM. He won't be as dug in about that as Jerry is. And heck, it might be the guy that's already there right now in Will McClay.
Okay, so that's that, and trust me, Clint, I get the sentiment because it is frustrating, and I think so. There's a fan who's gonna watch the team and will see the bright side, and then there's a fan like Clint, and there's a fan like others out there who will say, you know what, this team did nothing to help this offense in free agency. They said we're just gonna draft and just pray that these guys can develop, and you've had guys like Tolbert who hasn't really taken that step, like Mozzie, who's been okay but hasn't been enough. And so I think when we hear things like, hey, we're cap strapped, or there's going to be no movement in free agency, again, that's kind of breaking news, John. And listen, on the Cowboys Collective, you guys are going to get that type of news from one said John Machota. John, is there any news about Demarvion Overshown before we move forward with some of these topics?
Yeah, man, that thing is so bad. You feel for the guy, first of all, because he is one of the locker room favorites. He's just a great kid that he just handles his business the right way, and you could just see the trajectory of just how he was taken up. I mean, you could see glimpses of it last year in camp before he got hurt in Seattle in that preseason game. So then you're just like, oh, well, maybe he's going to have a slow start to this year because he's coming off this ACL injury. Some guys, it takes them a little bit longer. We've obviously seen that with various players. But, man, he hit the ground running, and you just saw, I mean, heck, even from that opener in Cleveland, like he was making plays where you're like, damn, like they got a weapon there at linebacker. And now it just, I mean, when you talk about the ACL, MCL, and PCL, that's where you're talking about, I mean, at least I would think a full year of rehab. So that's where you all of a sudden start impacting the possibility. I mean, it's on the table that he could miss all of next season. And so, yeah, it's not great. Now, I will say he is absolutely 100% wired the right way. The other team that I follow closely outside of the Cowboys is the Detroit Lions, just because I'm from Detroit. And, when Aiden Hutchinson had that foot injury or the leg injury against the Cowboys, that's one of those where you're just like, yeah, well, he's going to be done for the season. But the way he's wired, you can't completely close the door on him potentially being back if they made a Super Bowl run. Overshown's wired like that too, but it just, you feel so bad for the kid because it's like it's the opposite knee. Last year was the left knee, this one's the right, and you just and the other part of it too, just from a Cowboys perspective, is it just like I get the feeling of just when I've covered the team, it's just like you just seen some of this with Sean Lee and then Leighton Vander Esch, and it's just like, man, can they get some solid, consistent, healthy linebacker play? Because they've had guys that if they're healthy, they are Pro Bowl type players, but the injuries have prevented that from happening. It's
crazy.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's just complete bad luck. All right, Law, Clint, I want you guys to jump in on this. It's now trending with Bill Belichick going to UNC, and I actually got some insight on that last week, that they were really interested, and I was like, you thought it would be a blue blood maybe type, like a true SEC team that was down, and it's North Carolina. You're like, okay, but then you read the stipulations. Okay, so I'm now hearing that Bill wasn't getting the NFL attention that people may have thought. Law, Attack, let's talk about this. John Machota wrote a great article on, don't be surprised if Mike McCarthy is your coach in 2025. When you see now that that Bill Belichick wasn't getting the interest, that there's only going to be so many guys who can fill the Dallas Cowboys head coaching role. How do you guys feel? Law, I'll let you go, then I'll let Clint go.
Well, you pay for what you get. I'm not trying to throw Mike McCarthy under the bus, but he's getting paid $4 million for a reason. And that is what it is. He had to crawl and get himself back into the NFL. So he was out for a majority of the time. Now that he's been here for over 4 years, we get it, right? But we still see some of the same issues with this particular team. You get undisciplined. You get play calling that's not consistent enough so that we can be able to say to ourselves, we have the advantage. So when you look at somebody like Bill Belichick, who's a Territorian, a disciplinarian, you look at somebody that can probably will and get the culture going, but he was averagely getting paid $15 to $25 million APY. So that's a lot of money. So I do know that, like John Machota mentioned, the money, I do know that the Joneses, they consider money as a power play, and $10 million, that probably outpriced them. Even though you said a lot of teams were not looking at Bill Belichick, but it could be because of the fact that he is long in the tooth, and he seems as if though he was dated to a degree. But when we look at the Cowboys' decision to bring back Mike McCarthy, what would change? Because his philosophy is still pass, regardless of the talent. And I think it'll be more of the same. An undisciplined team in certain moments. On top of that, a pass-heavy team that refuses to run the ball. Even if we had Genty in the backfield averaging 7 yards per carry, it would still be the same philosophy. And I think that that's one of the issues with Mike McCarthy.
I'm going to just say this. I've been saying this. John wrote the article. I've been saying this for weeks. I've been saying, if you listen to what Jerry has been saying to the media and just how the organization has almost been kind of bracing the fan base for this reality. Like, hey, guys, we kind of like Mike. I'm just letting you know. We think Mike's a great guy.
12-5.
12-5. It's hard to win games. They have been kind of conditioning the fans to be okay with this. And I'm going to take it a step further. Beyond the money thing, Law, Jerry is incubating his next hand-chosen head coach. And Mike McCarthy's going to be here until that coach is done and ready to get out the incubator, especially since all of the better options are going off the board. All of the options that will make fans be like, this gives me more confidence than a coach that's won a Super Bowl before. All of those options are eliminating themselves or they're being taken off the board. Ben Johnson, like, hey, we got to have some structural, some organizational integrity. You got to be able to tell me what you did wrong. Jerry ain't doing that. He going to ask for more salt on his McDonald's sandwich. He ain't getting to nothing. So Jason Witten going to be here. And I think Mike McCarthy's going to be here for another 2 or 3 seasons. And once he's done, Jason Witten's going to walk in the door as the Jerry's version of Dan Campbell.
Hey, that's a good one though, Jason Witten though. You know what I'm saying? 2-time state champion.
Hey, he going to get some coordinator experience in college over the next season or 2.
So he going to college next year? Okay,
give Terry the excuse to do that. That's going to give him the ammo to do that. And Jason Witten, if you listen to his wife, hold on, this is from something I really did a deep dive on the other day.
Okay,
his wife said him coaching in high school was only supposed to be a temporary stop until he decided to take that next step to coach in the NFL. Jason was only going to be there for his boys, man. He is not about to be a Liberty Christian or another high school after his boys are gone, bro. That's just what I'm getting at. That's just where I'm going with
it. You know what, Clint? I'll be honest with you. It's not that crazy to believe that, especially with what we just saw with Deion Sanders. Deion started in high school with his son. Then he goes to Jackson State with his son. Then he goes to Colorado with his children. I think that the days of and Jerry might say, and Lord knows I don't want Jason Witten to coach this team, but Jerry might say, hey, great motivator, sharp guy, great leader. That's the type of guy that I want to coach. Pedigree.
Dan Campbell type,
Dan Campbell type.
Let's be honest. Jason would be the perfect aesthetic piece for it to be the face of the Dallas Cowboys, man. He would be the perfect piece for that.
Yeah. That's it. Now let me ask you guys this. Let's move Jason Witten aside, and let's say they do move on from Mike McCarthy. Who are a few names, John? Who's a name that you would like to see at least get an opportunity to coach this team?
Yeah, the one thing that I have to point out in the difference with the Witten Campbell thing, though, is Campbell spent a long time in the NFL as an assistant.
That's fair.
I find it hard to believe Jerry will toss the keys to Witten unless he does some type of. It might only be a year or 2, but I would think he has to be at least a tight ends coach somewhere or something before.
In the NFL, to you, John?
Yeah.
And
then maybe he starts that process in the next couple of seasons. But I don't think he's just hiring him right out of a high school job or even a college job to be the head coach of the Cowboys. But this is my big thing on why I pointed out in that article I wrote about McCarthy after the game, because if Jerry was in love with anybody that's out there, he could have got them last year after the Packers loss. I can make the argument that that's the most pissed off that Jerry's been at Mike McCarthy is probably after they lost that Packers game. And the people that are on the top of the list that you'd be looking at are Bill Belichick, who's now off, Ben Johnson, and Mike Vrabel. And they were all there last year. So if he was absolutely in love with any of them, he would have moved to them last year after that loss in January. So I feel like those are still, I think Vrabel, if you want the because he's got a little bit of the Witten too, where, former player, all of that. But then the other part of it with Ben Johnson, I just think that it's still it's hard for me to see Jerry go with a coach that doesn't have any head coaching experience. I do think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, especially if you hired Ben Johnson with the right defensive coordinator,
Yes.
let's say like a Robert Saleh or something like that, where it's like you bring these two guys in. I do think it changes some stuff up, but here's the thing. If you go to that, then that's another new offense for Dak Prescott, which I think we would all be like, yeah, well, that's just how the NFL's played. Keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Those are the type of things that Jerry factors into with, yeah, but do we really want to do that? Maybe that sounds like a lot of change. And I'm just looking at the body of work. Actions speak louder than words. He's not showing you that he wants to do a lot of change. He wants to continue drafting and investing in what they have right now because, you know what, it might not get to a Super Bowl, but we probably also won't be one of these teams that every year is picking in the top 10. And, of course, fans don't want to hear that. But I feel like that Jerry Jones being the owner and general manager, that's what his actions say to us.
So
go ahead. I was going to say, John, what was the ideology of moving and elevating Al Harris to that assistant coach, head coaching position? And if you think of it, Mike Zim is long in the tooth. Will he come back next year? Could this be a combination if the Cowboys decide not to bring back Mike McCarthy and keep some of the semblance here? Could they just elevate Schottenheimer as the offensive coordinator and make Al Harris the head coach here? Or elevate Mike Zim to be the head coach, or et cetera, those type of things.
I mean, with Jerry, you can't rule out anything. I just don't think that that's very likely. I can see a scenario where they hire a head coach who, so in this case, it wouldn't be Vrabel. This scenario would be more of a Ben Johnson, but where then you keep Mike Zimmer as your DC. I mean, we've already seen when Mike McCarthy took over as head coach, Moore was the OC, and he kept him on his staff. So with Jerry, you can never rule that stuff out, and that's the type of stuff that most organizations want no part of. It's like, you're the new coach, you pick your staff. You're in charge of all of that. The teams that don't seem to be run that well, they're the ones that make you carry over and do these other things and stuff like that. Let's be honest, when you're the head coach, you should be able to make the call on all of your assistant coaches. That shouldn't be anybody else's call but yours.
I agree with that.
So here's now I want to give a little voice of reason, and I've had my gripes with Mike McCarthy. I just want to be fair about that. Here's the deal. This team has been criminally injured this year. Criminally. Let's go down the list of injuries, and let's talk about, and it's not an excuse, but let's just talk about just what he's really had to deal with. DeMarcus Lawrence, gone. Deron Bland, he just steps wrong in training camp. He's out till he came back 2 games ago. So he stepped wrong. He stepped wrong in training camp. He literally missed half the season. Micah Parsons was out for a stint. You talk about, just the list goes on and on with the injuries. Brandon Cooks, who is they had plans for Brandon Cooks in this offense, and then the one that we're all going to talk about is Dak Prescott. Now, was Dak Prescott playing his best football? No, he was not. That's not a secret.
Yeah, let me just jump in real quick on that. I just got to add this though: the way that they were just getting torched at home.
Thank you.
I can't put that thing on injuries. The way they got torched by the Green Bay Packers.
I was about to explode over here. I was about to pop my lid, bro. I'm like, come on, man. What are we doing, man?
These games were not competitive.
So the Packers game for sure, John. But this is what I said. They're going to use the whole body of work, John, because we got to also say, bro, you're throwing out rookie Marshawn Nealon to start. And, oh, by the way, he's gone. Diggs, was he himself this year? No, he wasn't. I don't think that – okay, and this is another thing that if we really want to talk about the nitty-gritty, if you're bringing in a Ben Johnson, who's to say that Ben Johnson doesn't want to bring in his quarterback? We're talking about a Dak Prescott now who's had 2 major –
No, he can't do that. He can't do that. No.
Exactly.
Come on, Foots.
So no. Time out. But listen, these are the questions. These are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. I'm not saying that you keep Mike McCarthy, but if you want to bring in an offensive-minded guy, Dak Prescott ripped it. Hold on, wait.
Wait a minute, man.
I'm gonna let you.
Come on now, dog.
I like that. We got to ask ourselves the tough questions. Dak Prescott ripped his hamstring off the bone on a routine throw. Routine throw. Is Dak Prescott the same player?
Man, we not about to
hold on,
start
hold on.
talking
Let me
about
just
all
say
that
this.
right now.
The only reason I got to jump on this because
hold on, man. Look, okay, cool. The injury, all that stuff is fine.
We can't say okay, cool. He's 31.
You know what the biggest, you know what the biggest issue is as far as why I have a Mike McCarthy is one of the main jobs of a head coach is to be a manager, bro. And he doesn't actually manage his roster. He doesn't manage his players. He doesn't hold his players accountable. His players have no fear of not performing up to standard. That's the biggest issue. That's the biggest issue to me, man.
Okay.
Forget the injuries and all that. When you come out and make excuses,
you can't
for
say
guys
forget
doing
the injuries.
No, because when you come out and make excuses for guys doing stuff that professionals shouldn't be doing still, they should understand what their job is on that field. When you're a special teamer, you have a very limited set of job responsibilities, okay? You should not be coming out and making excuses for an Amani Warrior coming out and saying, "Oh, he heard the crowd roar."
Yeah.
He's hear the crowd roar.
Yeah, he's a football player.
Because you're hearing the crowd.
Hey, so Clint, you want to know what one of the roughest things? Clint he's definitely gonna drive our ratings up. I love Clint. Hey, Clint, to be honest with you, I think one of the issues is Mike will actually hear some of these calls go across the headset, and he'll let it happen. Like that's if you want to call him out for that. I'll tell you this too. I can't believe that I can't believe that Fossil still has a job. We get a penalty. We get a penalty on every special teams kicker. We've gotten literally a penalty on every either kick return, kick off. It's been terrible. So I
Jerry
definitely
old
give
ass
you
was
that.
mad last night. I can't believe either.
Yeah, so at some point, if Mike McCarthy is the head honcho, he's the head guy in charge. He got to discipline his staff. Is that the case? And on top of that, he should be able to be the end all be all to these things. If we can see Jalen Brooks week 1, week 2 slipping and sliding, when will he get in and say, "Hey, Jalen Brooks, I'm benching you, bro"? Or when Jalen Tolbert, when he mix up and mess up, we got other kinds of calibers of coaches that will absolutely coach. But Mike McCarthy tends to be, I guess, docile to a degree, whereas he's not stern enough on these guys when they make ultimately mistakes. So there's no fear. And when you have no fear, there's no accountability. And there's no accountability, you lead the team in penalties. So that's what we got out of Mike McCarthy in these 4 or 5 years. And it will be more the same, more the situations of not being able to control the clock, being terrible in red zone, even when we were 12-5, and on top of that, not being able to run with a purpose. So that's not what most of the fan base is wanting to have back here in DC for life land. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying, you know.
And I will say this, I do think, though, the way that Mike coaches, though, when you talk about, like, being, like, a disciplinarian and stuff like that, I do think it's today is a great example of how that day is kind of gone. That's why Bill Belichick can't coach in today's NFL anymore.
That's a great point.
Okay, that's a good point.
I mean, this is how you have to coach.
This standard, man.
I agree with that.
No, he's agreeing with you,
today's
Clint.
way you have to coach. If you're going to say something negative about fixing something that player did, you better start that thing with 1 or 2 positives before you get to that negative. Like you can't. So there is a little bit of balance there, and Mike is a player's coach, so there is a balancing act. You do have to be more. There has to be more discipline in this team, and I completely agree with you guys, especially on the special teams. There's no excuse for those issues that have been happening recently. But I just want to add this in real quick. When you mentioned the Ben Johnson thing about bringing the quarterback thing over, no, you wouldn't do that with Ben Johnson. The reason Ben Johnson would be hired is because you're like, no matter whoever is the biggest Dak hater or thinks he's the worst quarterback, I promise you think he's better than the day that the Rams traded Jared Goff, had to attach a first-round pick to Jared Goff for them to take him off his hands, and then Ben Johnson has helped turn him into what he is today. The reason you'd be hiring him is because you'd be like, oh, he can have success with Dak. And, I mean, look what he's done with Jared Goff, because let's not act like Jared Goff wasn't being, like, kind of cast aside about 3-4 years ago where people are like, yeah, well, he's not going to do anything in the NFL, and now he's up for MVP. So that's the reason you'd be doing it. He wouldn't be coming in to change quarterback. Whatever coach is coaching the Cowboys in 2025, 2026, 2027 is going to be about how can you maximize Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's not going anywhere.
Well, so okay. The thinking behind that, John, that sentiment is we just have to remember Mike McCarthy also had Dak Prescott as an MVP candidate last year.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of people who forget about that part of it too. I'm not
Oh,
saying
there's a
that,
path. There's a path, and it probably involves Ashton Genty to getting to where they were, let's say, Dak's rookie year, where they
now you're
leaned-
talking my language.
I mean,
Yeah.
clearly, the best Cowboys teams I've seen are the
Run the
ones
ball.
Dak's rookie year and 2014, where they were like, we're going all in on DeMarco Murray, and then you saw Tony Romo have his best season because of that.
Yes.
So that would be the only path this offseason that's realistic, where I could be like, yeah, if they got a really good running game and they were able to take some pressure off of Dak, it would make Dak play even better because of that,
Right.
instead of just being like, hey, man, go back there and throw 40, 45 times a game and hope you win. You know, we're giving you $60 million. You better win that way. That's the only path I see this offseason that could be realistic, too. And if it's not, and I'll be honest with you, if it's not Genty, it would have to be somebody that you add another back to the mix that complements Rico Dowdle. The running game has to be something. It's not going to win without it.
Hey, John, when you think about this altogether, when you look at the top teams in pretty much offensive now, they are not just only dependent on the quarterback, right? We can look at games where Goff won, whereas you can say the running back was able to do it. Even Jalen Hurts, to a degree, the running back was able to do it. So we looking at teams that know how to win games without their quarterback. And the Cowboys been so dependent on just Dak Prescott that he got to play faultless or without any blemish in order to win games. It's crazy. So it would be nice if we can get a running back that can average 5 or more yards per tote, and you would see the fullness of Dak Prescott in this system.
Clint, you got anything else to add to this one?
No, y'all go ahead. Y'all go ahead.
So this is what I would say about the running back deal. This draft class is very deep. So I've already started doing a lot of work. I mean, John, it's about 17 guys, literally. I mean, top 10 is filled with second and third round guys who could come in and be a piece added on to what Rico Dowdle was done. And then you got about 7 other guys who could possibly be steals. So if you want to draft a back this year, if you want to back, this will be the year to get one. My thinking, and then we'll move on from the Mike McCarthy deal, is what John is saying to me in that article is, if you're changing Mike McCarthy out, you're changing a lot more than Mike McCarthy out. Like, remember when you moved on from Jason Garrett, you had to get all of Jason Garrett out. You had to get his staff. I don't think there's a world where you bring back. I would not bring Schottenheimer back. He would not be my OC. I wouldn't. He's gone. I want the whole philosophy out. And if we're ready to make that change, we need to be ready to make that change fully. I would want to keep Mike Zimmer, but I could also see a world where if you're bringing in a head coach who's going to run this team and you're giving him whatever year deal, it needs to be the whole deal, strip it clean. Because if you keep some of that Jason, I remember for the longest, you had Jason Garrett gone, but then you still had Witten around. You still had certain guys around who still had some of that Garrett in them, and it showed the way in the Cowboys played. So that's my thoughts on whatever coach you bring in. He needs to bring in his whole staff, and it needs to be a clean slate, and we need to move in that direction. And that's kind of how I feel on that. How do you feel about that, Law?
Well, I agree to a point, but Jerry Jones got his philosophy that he's not going to change up. He's going to want to handpick his offensive coordinator, and he wants to handpick his defensive coordinator as well. This has been the tales of times with Jerry Jones, and he's living with regret. So he's also probably looking at it like, I don't want to get rid of Mike McCarthy because of these injuries. That's how he probably looking at that too. But there's a guy that's familiar with Schottenheimer. Yeah, but there's a guy that coached with Schottenheimer before who said that he got an itch that he's willing to coach again. And I want to know, John, is Pete Carroll, do he have anything left in the tank? I know he's long in the tooth as well, but do he have anything left?
I be talking on Pete, man. Both of those boys was walking down the dusty road right now. The Grim Reaper is escorting both of them down the aisle right now. If Bill can't come, Pete can't either. Go ahead.
He said he want to coach again. Pete Carroll said he wants to coach.
I was joking with somebody the other day. People talk about Kyle Shanahan, the Shanahan tree. I'm like, watch Jerry be like, yeah, we need somebody from the Shanahan tree. They go get Mike Shanahan. It is funny because we joke around about this from time to time on the beat, where we'll be like, the way Jerry talks about anybody that's like won a Super Bowl before or anything like that, you're just like,
right.
Man, you can't eliminate Pete Carroll. you you can't eliminate Doug Peterson. I mean, if he's going to go by guys that won Super Bowls, you're just
right.
like, how bad could this? How deep are we getting on this list here? You know?
Yeah.
That's the thing. I'm sure you guys heard Jerry say this before, and to me, it's one of his biggest faults is he'll say this, and he's used it with Zeke a bunch of times where he's like, if I've seen them do it before, they can do it again.
Again, yeah.
And I'm sure that has worked somewhere for him in the business world and helped him be successful. When he brings that into sports all the time, I'm just like, a lot of times the game will pass you by if you keep going back to things 100%. That you've seen before.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is interesting. It makes me wonder, like, what do you guys think the fans would like if you went and you polled all of like Cowboys Nation, like the diehard fans? Who do you think they would want as the next head coach?
Oh,
Ben Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson. Oh,
it would be. Listen, the hipster pick is for sure Ben Johnson. They look at his designs. Hey, you know what, John? How you put it? Get Ben in here.
I like his disposition.
Yeah, let's. You right. Hey.
But the money though, 15, 20 million scares the hell out of Jerry. Yeah.
What's your point?
This is my thing, right? And this is the guy's honest truth. We got about a 4-year window of Dak in his prime, right? That's why I bring up the injuries. I mean, let's be honest. We got to be honest. Quarterbacks start to, unless they're Tom Brady on a kale diet routine, the injuries are starting to be real. It's a real thing. We can't act like it didn't happen. So,
the team being awful is kind of camouflaging the Dak injury. Imagine if they were rolling and that happened. And hamstring, not touched by a player, just on your own throwing, out for the season. How big of a story would that be if the season was rolling? But because the season was already kind of in a bad direction, people are like, yeah, well, hey, whatever. Let's just see what Cooper Rush.
That's a good point, John.
If they were rolling and that happened, there'd be a lot of people talking about like, oh my gosh, he's only 31 and it's not like he's running all over the place and it's a hamstring and it's a serious
That's
one.
That's the only point I'm making, John.
Injury. Yeah.
Right there. So in that,
I'll deal with it, Foots. He here for 3 or 4 more years.
I'm labeled as a Dak hater. I love Dak. I'm also realistic.
You'll deal with it on this show, Foots.
I know. Look, any Dak topic, me and Click gonna be.
We gonna be butting heads.
Right, we be punching. Yeah.
You ain't gonna be a moderator. I'm like, you can't talk. No.
Yeah. And then first, you got to also understand that his contract goes into 2032. I know those votable years is at the back of it, but you got to hear Dak Prescott name, Foots, until the year 2032. So, and there's no trade clause on the contract, and there's no what else? No franchise, none of that stuff. That contract is sealed.
So tomorrow on Twitter, I know it's gonna be Foots wants to trade Dak, and that's not true. Just so we can.
I'm gonna make a clickbait video for sure.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, why not get the guy in here, John Clint Law, who can get Dak back to that level? And I think what people don't realize.
Just last year.
No.
Last year.
No. We're talking about that.
5 or 6 bad weeks, man.
No. We're talking about the level of that 2014 and 2016 where everything, because a lot was on Dak's plate. Come to the line, pre-snap, he did everything. But then at the end of the day, what other guy can he just say, you know what, go win us a game? Is it a Genty? Is it a Genty and a Rico? Is it a Genty and an Omarion Hampton? Whoever it is, how can we get them to that way? Oh, Ben Johnson is somebody who drafted Jahmyr Gibbs when everybody said you don't draft a running back. Oh, they went out and signed David Montgomery. So I'm just saying Ben would be the guy to get at least, if we want the run game and the play design back, it would be Ben Johnson for sure.
The one thing I'll say about that, though, that would be tough for Jerry to make that decision, I feel like, because I don't think it would be the money. I think it's in Detroit, he gets to just call the offense, and there's not a lot on him. And he certainly doesn't have to deal with 2 radio interviews a week and the owner talking after the games. And I don't know how much you don't really know how a guy's going to handle that until they're in there. I mean, Mike McCarthy's told us many a times that, that was an adjustment period for him getting used to that, because obviously that wasn't happening in Green Bay. And so there would be some projecting there because it is just such a different deal being the Dallas Cowboys head coach. But in terms of, calling the offense, I mean, you can make the argument that he's the best offensive mind in the game right now. So I find it hard to believe that if he was the decision, I don't see how the offense wouldn't be one of the better ones in the league. That's my thing about the Cowboys. When I look at the roster, like it's not a bad roster.
It's not.
It's not a team where like, yeah, this is
but you still need do you still need to draft another wide receiver? Are you guys sold on Brooks and Tolbert and I like Turpin, but are you sold on Mingo? No, so we can put in whereas we qualify for even though we need a running back. Well, would you rather get Luther Burden with the first pick and then get Omarion Hampton with the second foots? So those are a lot of things that we have to really digest in when we get down to that. When we get to that time,
I'm not interested in using a first round pick on a wide receiver at all. It just does not interest me at all. I think that when you locked up CeeDee Lamb, I'm not. I think you can find good wide receivers in the second or third round, or even a move like you did for Brandon Cooks for another like a veteran type player. I would have a hard time doing another first round pick because I think that they're going to look at it as they probably need to put another first round pick into the offensive line.
Oh hell
no! with Zach Martin retiring, I think that there's a decent possibility that Zach Martin will retire. The way that I think that the way that the Cowboys look at it is all these teams are investing all these top picks in the defensive line, and so they believe that the NFL has gotten to a level now where
offensive lineman, man.
An offensive line needs to have probably.
Would you pass up on a Genty? Would you pass up on a Genty for an offensive lineman like a Banks or a Will Campbell? If you got Will Campbell, if you got Banks there, would you pass up on a Genty for those two guys? If it's available, Foots and John.
Talking about me, I'll be completely honest with you. You know how I feel about Genty. So when it comes to weapons and weaponry, now the question is this, Law. I'm not drafting a lineman early in this class. This class, lineman-wise, just isn't. It's not where it's.
Oh yeah, and I'm not saying that they're going to do it this year. I'm just saying that, like with Zach Martin, I'm thinking this is probably his last year. And if it's not this year, next year, or the year after, there will be a time again where the Cowboys have 3 ones on their offensive line. I'm very confident of that.
But
man, why y'all keep doing this? I see the chat. We gotta address the chat, man.
And to be honest with you, it's kind of their own fault because they really didn't develop any offensive linemen like you were expecting. Because that's one of the big successes that Mike McCarthy and Green Bay, man, he found so much in the 4th, 5th round. Bakhtiari, Trevor, and all these guys, man, Lindsley.
One of my good friends, and I think that's just a Green Bay thing in general, John, because my buddy Rasheed Walker, he was a 6th, 7th round pick, and he's starting over there. Yeah. So, I agree with you there. Here's the thing, right? With losing Overshown, and we all say how sad of a situation that is, now defense is on the board in the first round, for sure. Abdul Carter falls, Jalen Walker falls. Some of these names, I mean, you could even go. You could go
with
James
the Prince
Pierce.
Pierce.
I like Prince. You know how you can help a defense, man, besides using first-round draft picks on defense? Because if we look at the Cowboys, and the first and second round picks have all been defenses that been here essentially, outside of CeeDee Lamb, and I think it was one other pick, man. But all of them have damn near been defense or something that has nothing to do with helping your quarterback, man. You know how you can help your defense is keep the offense on the field. That's how you can help the defense, man.
So Dak Attack, you team running back then.
Bro, I'm team help the offense. Right now, it's CeeDee Lamb and the 7 Dwarves, bro. That's
why. But why you jumped up when we said Will Campbell?
Because we don't.
I agree with Dak there.
Or Banks.
We don't need the offensive line. We got these dudes that they've been talking up their potential and their ceiling and how great they're coming on. Man, show us. But until then, go lower it up, man, because all these other teams in the league, the best teams in the league, have done the things to fully equip their offense. If you go down the road and look at the teams competing at the top right now, even the Bills, they have made moves. They have spent draft capital. They got Keon in the second round. They have made moves to try to put weapons around this man. But you can look at the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Lions, the 49ers. All the best teams in the league have premium weapons. It's not just guys that can do the job. It's guys that can single-handedly take over a game if given the opportunity, man.
Facts.
Hey, Clint, me and you speak the same language here. I thought that the Cowboys should have went running back in the Gibbs, Bijan draft. Now they would have been left with Tajay Spears because Detroit aggressively traded up for Gibbs. When everybody said you don't value the running back position, and we now see a shift. All of the top teams in the playoffs, who runs the ball outside of the Chiefs? Okay, the Chargers. They have brought Harbaugh back. They run the ball. The Ravens, they run the ball. Every top team in the AFC, the Bills have an outstanding run game. People don't talk about the Bills' run game. It's really, really good.
It is good, yeah.
Wayne's World said, no, he tripping. The top teams right now are playing fantastic defense. Jared Goff threw 5 picks in the game and won. You know what they also did when he threw those 5 picks? They still scored over 30. What are you talking about, man? They still have to score points, bro.
Yeah.
No,
still got to score points.
No, and I understand, and I get you, Clint, and I think when you even talk about the NFC, you look at Philly, you look at the way that Hurts is playing. Hurts isn't playing great football. They have 2 great receivers. They have the best offensive line in football. And oh, by the way, they invested in Saquon Barkley. You look at the Lions, 2 juggernauts at the running back position. So I just look at it. I mean, hell, you look at Cincinnati, and their defense let them down this year, but they have Higgins and they have Jamar Chase. So I agree with Clint in that way. I think there is going to be people who say, oh, draft the lineman. Oh, draft the defensive player. And I'm team defensive player because you lost Overshown. However.
And you're not going to have Lawrence back.
And you're not going to have Lawrence back. And you don't know, like, because Nealon was just okay.
You don't know what you have in Sam Williams.
So John, Lawrence said he would like to play again. So we're going to let him walk. We're going to let him go.
I mean, judging by what Steven said, it doesn't sound like they're going to be in a bidding war with anybody.
Here's my last point. Here's my last point.
Yeah.
I don't think that Genty is good. I think Genty is special. And again, people will say, oh, they should have never drafted Zeke that high. I think Dallas will be drafting between 12 and 9. I think the highest they can go is 9, depending on if these teams just win. Even if they lose to Carolina, I don't think they skip them that much. Here's the deal. If Genty is available, I think even though it's a cliche pick, it's the home run pick. This guy helps you in so many ways because people are going to look at him, and I can't wait till the draft cycle is going to be he's too short. It's going to be, oh, I know his 40, and it's like he uses that against defense. I just think that he helps Dak so much in that way. That's me. So,
real quick housekeeping. Foots, you got the chat having an identity crisis with me, man. Quit calling me by my government, Foots.
Okay. I'm sorry. Dak, I'm sorry.
Dak attack. The attacker.
Man, the chat like, who is Clint?
I'm Lawrence, by the way. Lawrence.
I was like, let's start calling everybody by their governments. I'm like, no, man, we ain't doing that.
Jerry says,
is it really Lawrence?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm Lawrence. Hi, nice to meet you, John. It's not Jonathan, is it?
It is Jonathan.
Hey, Jonathan, come on.
You know what? I just don't want to call Dak. I just don't want to say, what's up, Dak? Like, I'm just like,
attack, bro. Attack.
Hey, listen. We just having fun. This is the inaugural. This is the inaugural.
Oh, my God.
Let's change gears here.
All right.
You gave up a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance. Attack, you came up with these great topics, and they're good. Why can't Trey Lance get on the field? I just want to say this. Please don't fight me on this, y'all. Cooper Rush is hard to watch. I know he'll do some nice things. I do. John, Attack, Law. Y'all talk about pulling your hair out. I'm like, yo, Cooper, you can't make a simple throw-off play action. The one he sailed, I'm like, yo, are we serious?
I'm going to say this right now.
Pass.
Hey, I'm going to say this right now. Trey Lance ain't making any of those throws that Cooper Rush did on that first series. Those 2 throws to CeeDee Lamb on that first series, I promise you Trey Lance ain't making any of those.
Facts.
You think that the coaching staff is like, no, let's hide this guy? And like, did you not watch the last preseason game? I mean, I get it. Cooper Rush is not – you're not trying to build the offense around him. You know that. But come on. What do you think is going to happen when Trey Lance is out? Do you think they're going to just start winning games? He's going to be running around looking like it's North Dakota State out there? I mean,
but you know what need to happen? This what need to happen, though. Breaking news, the Cowboys now elevating Will Greer to the team. What about Will Greer, John? Will Greer can make those throws, man.
I would
Yeah,
take
maybe.
Will Greer over what I've seen in Cooper
Yeah.
Rush. It's just harder. I think the thing with Rush that he the old school sit in the pocket, his feet are in mud is just it drives me up a
It
wall.
makes me
Okay,
want to go commit crimes on the city, bro. It really
yeah,
does.
it's terrible.
The problem that I think that you get with Lance is that he's got the arm strength, he's got the mobility, and so you'd see some of those highlight plays, but he would throw some interceptions that you're just like, whoa, like just staring down a receiver type stuff. That I just find it hard to believe that they're not seeing that in practice and being like, no, but let's put him out there. Like there's nothing in this season that would make you do that if you thought. Because here's the other part of it: you'd at least put him out there for a couple series or something in the red zone or something like that.
Really?
So that I gotta. There's not many times when a guy comes off the bench when I'm watching college football or pro football where I'm just like, oh, why weren't you playing that? Usually when they get out there, you're like, oh, that's right. That's why.
That's why.
How did the transition happen with Terrell Pryor? Y'all remember him? Is that who Trey Lance is?
I mean, I just
Can they move him to like wide receiver or something else, tight end, running back? What else can he do? Because that's $5.5 million just sitting there holding the clipboard. I wish I could sign up for that.
It goes back to what he said, Law. I mean, this is now Steven. I think if anything, Steven and Jerry will never admit when they're wrong. They'll never just come out and say, bad move.
Bad move. Yeah.
This is what it is, Law. It's a bad move. If John's telling us that he can't get on, and he's right. If the coaches are at practice, they're evaluating. If he can't make these plays, this is bad. This is a bad move.
Well, and the thing is that they made that move because Dak wasn't under contract, and so they wanted to roll the dice on, hey, Mike McCarthy's expertise is developing these quarterbacks. Let's try and develop him in our system, and that's different from San Francisco's, and maybe he can, have some success here. And as soon as he got here, it immediately went to like, you got to work on his footwork. It's got to be this, adapt to the West Coast offense. So it's like almost like he was probably starting over again. And so I just get the feeling when I've seen him play that he's just thinking a lot. Like instead of just going out there and letting your athletic ability do its thing, I think that he's probably thinking too much, which, I mean, let's be honest, it's a tough position to play. I mean, how many good NFL quarterbacks are there?
That's true.
There are 10, and so I think that that's probably part of it. And then once they saw him in the preseason and then they got the contract done with Dak, it was like, all right, well, we're going to take our losses here. But you are right. They're not going to admit that they were wrong. I mean, they've said it recently. They're like, oh, we'd do that again. No, you wouldn't.
Man, they are admitting they wrong. They are admitting they wrong by not seeing any kind of value out of a pick they traded, man. That is in the middle, man. Like, our bad, y'all. Y'all don't want to see it. Trust us. Y'all mad about Cooper? Y'all gonna be real mad about this. Trust
I will say this. I do like bringing this up, and this will piss you guys off, but it's hard to argue against this. So if you don't just follow the Cowboys and you follow the rest of the NFL,
which I do,
when you tell me that they wanted to kick the tires on a guy that was a top 5 pick at quarterback, I don't completely say it's a dumb idea when you're a team that hasn't needed to use that high pick and you've had 2 franchise quarterbacks off an undrafted free agent and a 4th round pick. Why all these other teams have to use these first round. So it didn't work out, and hey, you got egg on your face because it didn't work out, but you can't say from the beginning like this is like the Lions or the Browns where you're just like, you guys are never going to make this thing work. Like, they actually kind of have. So that's the reason why I hate when people just look at it like hindsight 2020, like, this was dumb from the beginning. Well,
that's
they didn't go back-to-back Romo to Dak Prescott. That's pretty wild.
We haven't done John? We haven't done anything better than the 49ers. So if they couldn't do nothing with Trey, they should have been.
That's a great point.
That's a good point. That's a good touche.
I always think that because covering the league, you just subconsciously, every team has up years, down years, whatever, but there's certain teams in my head that I'm like, these are the 5 or 6 best run teams where I'm like, and whenever they make moves, I'm always just kind of like, man, why would they be moving on? If I'm another team, I'm like, why are you calling me about this? And then even when that deal got done, the way that the Niners, like John Lynch was somebody's like, no, when they offered us a 4, we were like, yeah, we'll take. That clearly was because nobody else was offering anything more than that.
John Lynch was like, what? Yeah, sure.
But hey, before we say anything else, man, I just want to give a round of applause to the chat and as well as to my guy, my brother from another mother, the infamous Vach Lombardi is in the building. Shout out to him. Yeah. I just wanted to give him his flowers, man.
Well, I say this: attack. You don't want to talk to Voch because he's trying to draft 5 linemen every year. So
Yeah, he's an offensive line. Every year he talk about that offensive line.
and when we get in the draft talk on here, it'll be fun. I'm sure we'll have guests and certain things like that. So, and listen, 77 people on the first Cowboys Collective.
First.
That's kind of crazy, y'all. Like, hand claps in the chat, man. Much love to y'all. I want to end on this note. I'm going to go around the room, and I want you guys – I was talking to Jeff Kavanaugh today, and I think there's a path in 2025, John Machota, Attack, and Law, for this team to be good again. Mm-hmm. Give me your path. I was about to say Clint. I'm sorry, Attack. Give me your path. Give me your path, Law, and give me your path, John, and we'll call it a day for this first one. Go ahead, Attack.
My path is give Dak some damn diddly weapons, man. Give him some weapons so your offense can be great again. Let your defense get healthier. Bring some guys back. You got some young guys gonna be coming back. Nealon got a year under his belt. Sam's gonna be back. Your defense gonna have some pieces. Fill your defense up with veterans that still want to win football games, man. Veterans that want to win football games. Draft D-line. Draft D-line for sure. You got to draft D-line, and that needs to be probably a top 3 or 4 type of pick, man. But
hey, Attack.
Running back D-line.
I was just about to ask you. Yeah, give me because we don't have that 4th round pick, just so we can start getting on record with some of these things. Give me your position group in the first 3 rounds. So would you go running back, D-line? Like, give me your first combinations. Yeah.
First 3 rounds has to be running back, wide receiver. One of them, the first round is running back, wide receiver, whichever one is best available once it gets to you. That's what I'm taking. Probably going to end up being receiver because if Gentry's gone, I'm not taking any other running back in the first round personally.
That's fair.
Probably receiver in the first round for me. Second round, running back for sure. If you didn't get that, in the first round, get the receiver. Third round, go defensive line. That's my top 3 rounds. That's what I'm trying to get.
That's your path to get better. Okay, Law Nation.
Well, similar. I don't. My pathway is, of course, running back, wide receiver, interior guy, defensive line guy, or offensive line. I always want to build with the trenches and the core. So, but I'm looking at it. We got 10 draft picks. I don't want us to use all 10 of those draft picks. I want us to package picks together, move up, and just will and deal. Since we don't believe in the philosophy of what John Machota said that kind of hurt my feelings today about going into this free agency making moves. So we're going to have to package some of these picks, move up, get some top 100 guys since we don't have a 4th round draft pick. So the pathway to getting back to the winning ways would be finding a run game and finding a situation to stop the run, and also getting a guy that got short area quickness that can take the top off the defense, can catch the ball and run routes and not slip and slide like Jalen Brooks.
Yeah. John.
Yeah, Attack. They don't need it. They don't need to use a 1st round pick on a wide receiver. They've already used a 4th to get Mingo. No,
Hey, Attack. We're going to have some fun with John. We're going to have you doing
Mingo!
Boy.
So here we go. So
Yes.
my thing is, I'll say this: if it's a top 15 pick, I'm not really interested in the offensive lineman in the top 15. Okay. But I will say in the top 15, the path is absolutely take the best player available.
BPA.
You can't sit there and say that they needed a wide receiver when they took CD. You can't say that they needed a corner way more than they needed a linebacker when they took Micah. Like, they need to take whoever's the best. That's what they've done best when Will McClay has run this draft. It is whoever's the best player there. If that's an edge rusher, if that's a defensive tackle, I'm fine with any of that. That I can be talked into any of it. But I will say, for me, the quickest path would be hitting on that running back. And obviously, we know Gentry, so that makes the most sense. But that's the quickest way I can see them fixing a lot of things, because that helps Dak, that helps the defense. Like, that gets you back into playing in the style where you're not having to force Dak to win the game throwing 40 sometimes, and everyone's just focused on taking away CD. You have more balance there. But, you know, I
love it.
I mean, with Mozzie and Oso as a free agent at the end of the year, I just don't know how you get through those first 3 rounds without taking a defensive tackle. I know fans aren't going to love that because they haven't hit on high defensive tackle picks, but you can't stop swinging there because it's just such a valuable position. I mean, you could make the case that that's the biggest thing that's been missing for the Dallas Cowboys for over a decade, is that they have not been feared in the middle of their defensive line. I mean, you probably got to go back to Ratliff, for a time when they were really had a formidable defensive tackle crew. And so those are the areas. I mean, I'm not against wide receiver, but I don't think I would do it in the first.
And that's fair.
Hey, John, you know what's going to end up happening? It's going to be Genty on the board and Mason Graham.
So let's so
You better
I want to
Mason Graham.
So anybody who knows me and knows how I kind of made my name in this space, they know I'm a draft fanatic. That's my baby. And I see some of my other draft fanatics in here. DMV, shout out to my boy DMV. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Sadiqa, all of you guys, Angie, all of you guys who've been with us since day one. We love you.
And subscribe, because we're doing this to charity right now. This is straight charity. We ain't trying to do nothing pro bono. Subscribe, get us to a 1K so we can start making some money. Okay.
I'm gonna tell y'all this. I can guarantee y'all. This channel will be the 1K by the end of the year. By the end of without a doubt.
It'll be by the end of the next couple weeks, man.
By tonight, y'all go subscribe.
Hey, man.
So when it comes to the draft, I think that John hit it on the head because I'm a Ashton Genty truther. But if for some reason Abdul Carter is sitting there staring at you and you just drafted a Micah Parsons and you say now you compare Abdul Carter with Micah Parsons and you can get after the quarterback the way that you can and still, to Clint's point, maybe go get your running back in the second round. Maybe go even double up and get your D tackle in the third round. I'm okay. But then there could be a world where everybody doesn't fall in love with Ted McMillan. Taller guy, long-legged, and run away from people. If he's staring at you in the first round,
Draft me, baby. Come on.
What position?
What position?
Clipboard. Give me that Trey Lance position.
It's a good job.
Hey, it must be not. No, in all seriousness. And if you could go, and if you could possibly go receiver, it makes sense. So I don't want to sound like I'm riding the fence, but if it's me, we just lost one of our best pieces in Overshown, probably won't play in 2025. If it's Genty, and I know I'm gonna make a big proclamation here. If it's Genty or if it's Mason Graham and he passes all the tests, I will probably go Graham just because of how deep this running back class is. As much as I love Ashton Genty, Mason Graham hits a need, like John said, this team just hasn't been tough in the middle of the defense. It just hasn't been. It just is what it is. You get Graham to sit in the middle of that defense with a developing Mozzie. We can't write him off yet, but he is developing. You get your running back and your receiver in the later rounds. That's what I would do. If you go in, you can do the same way.
I'm personally drop kicking you, Foots.
All I'm thinking about is just from a writer standpoint and trying to get page views and clicks on stories and things like that in the offseason. If they take a Michigan defensive tackle in the first round, don't get me wrong. It could end up being a big hit,
Right.
But up until it starts paying off, that's going to be a hard sell to the base.
It's going to be a hard sell, man. As hard as bringing Mike McCarthy back, that's going to be just as hard. That's just what it is.
Hey, you know what's so bad, y'all?
They need something sexy to happen this offseason, yo. We can't go.
Attack.
Charlotte Jones, the new owner. Go ahead.
Attack. I'm not going to lie to you, bro. Everything in me wants to draft a running back, but I just realized with Overshown not being on this team, y'all realize we only have one linebacker, we only have one linebacker under contract next year.
Man, Maris came in there and balled out.
I like Maris.
I like Maris a lot. I like him a lot to the point I don't want to draft him.
Damone Clark doesn't even play. Damone Clark doesn't play. I love Maris. That's one of my draft babies. But Damone Clark doesn't play, so you have Maris Louisfowl and Damone Clark next year.
Visual, baby. Nick Visual.
Man, you better bring in some damn free agents, man.
Yeah, that's
offense, man.
That's what they'll do at linebacker. That's where there's the Eric Kendricks type deal like that. That's what you're going to have to do, and it'll probably be 1 year prove it for some veteran player that, when they sign, you'll be like, oh, yeah, I know who that player is, whoever it is. They'll make moves like that, but it's just they're not going to make any type of move that really, where you're like, wow, I can't believe they signed that guy, or I can't believe that they traded for that guy. They're not going to do anything like that, but they'll fill holes like that, with the Kendrick spot and a few other things, but it's not going to be anything that's going to make anybody really excited.
No, 100%. So, guys, you guys got anything else before we close?
Nah, I don't got nothing else, man.
The only thing that I did learn today is that if they go defense, Attack will drop kick me, John. So
that could be good for the show.
But I would say this: Mason Graham and then Omarion Hampton in the second. I love that.
That feels good, Law.
That feels good. You got somebody who can stop the run, and you got somebody who can run the ball.
Y'all go with this BS,
Yes.
man.
Nah, dog. You like that attack?
Put it in the atmosphere. Lord.
AOC, you would like that AOC.
Listen. This has been a great show, guys.
Me dollar bill here.
We will be back next Wednesday, same time, same place. John Machota, Attack on Cowboys, Law Nation. Follow each and every one of these gentlemen on Twitter. You're not gonna get this type of a panel with the craziness of Attack. Listen, the one thing about Attack, this dude is gonna bring us views. And
right.
I promise you, his energy. There's nobody in the space who can match his energy.
Nobody.
And listen, don't nobody say his real name or you will get drop kicked.
Hey man, y'all better take me out of the date first. All these compliments, man.
Yeah. So we
blouses, man.
Hey, y'all send some donations in the next time we get here so we can get attacked. So send him a PayPal or something so we can get that green off of him. He got too much green in the back. Attack, you got too much green in the back, man. We're gonna have to get. You can't flip it to the other side. Ain't the other side blue? Yeah. Well, you could have flipped it to the other side, man. Come on, man. What's wrong with you, man?
It's an evil world.
Could have been flipped that thing, man. What's wrong with you, bro? All that damn green over there, man. Come on, man. Where my shame button at?
You must be out of your goddamn mind.
All right,
Shame.
much love.
How dare you?
Much
Shame.
love, guys. We will
Much love.
Shame.
Y'all gonna do it with me? Y'all gonna do it with me? We still established. Y'all gonna do it with me? Y'all ain't gonna do it with me.
Oh, how about them Cowboys?
much love, y'all. Peace.